Today's first resource person is with us, Professor Alak Buragohain. So before starting and requesting Sir to deliver his session, let me introduce our resource person to all of you. Professor Alak Buragohain obtained his post-graduation from Guwahati University in Botany and PhD from the Imperial College of Science, Technology and Medicine, London in Plant Molecular Biology under University of London and DIC in Plant Virology from Imperial College of Science, Technology and Medicine. He was the founder head of the Department of Molecular Biology and Biotechnology at Tezpur University. Professor Buragohain has extensive experience of over 4 decades in research and teaching. During the last 15 years, Professor Buragohain had stints in academic governance, first as the Registrar of Tezpur University and as the Vice Chancellor of Dibrugarh University, Assam, for full terms of 5 years each in both the positions. Professor Buragohain has made remarkable contributions in forging industry-academia interfacing and in bringing in international academic research collaboration at Dibrugarh University under different research schemes. He was awarded for his remarkable contribution towards exemplary industry-academia partnership by Worldwide Industry Academia Network. Currently, he is associated with Royal Global University Guwahati as Chairperson Academic. So today we welcome you, sir, for this session on roles and responsibilities of faculty in higher education. Now I request sir to present your deliberation, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your kind introduction. Before I begin, can you please allow me to share my slides? I think that's fine. I can continue now.
Yes.
Right. So thank you, thank you all the organizers at Tezpur University for having me this morning with you, and also a very good morning to all my friends. I understand from all over the country joining us this morning for this very important faculty development program. I think this is the first lecture today of the whole program.
Yes, sir, this is the first technical session.
All right. And I understand also that most of the participants are younger faculties, and I think I would be very glad to share my experience as a teacher, because I climbed the same ladder as you have just started, and I have began my journey, and I'm almost at the end of the path which you have taken up right now to walk along for the next so many years now. So I will only share my experience and also my observations, but to facilitate my points, a few slides are there. I do not want to, generally I do not enjoy talking with the slides, the PowerPoints, but then anyway, just to facilitate, as I said, and to keep track of what we will discuss, and to make it a little more structured, maybe. Well, I will resort to some of the points that I have jotted down in the form of these PowerPoint slides. So the topic that was given to me is roles and responsibilities of teachers in higher education institutions, where we all belong. The point is, what I will do before I take you along the slides, let me tell you, I will start very historically, and then I will take you to the present, what is happening today. And you will see the certain roles and certain responsibilities of teachers have been universal and still universal, and is almost, constant. It is unchanging from historical times, even prehistorical times, the roles and responsibilities of teachers. With the changing scenario, the evolution of the human race, the progress of civilization, the evolution of the university systems, higher education systems, we need to change also with respect to our roles and responsibilities, not to speak about the structures of the universities and institutions. So, so that we can cope with the demands of the of the time. We can cope with the changes that come along and come along our roles and responsibilities as teachers in the university. So that I will discuss towards the end. But then very briefly, these are all known to you, but for the sake of reference, I will take you briefly historically to what it means to be a teacher. Just a minute. It's not moving. Just a minute, just a minute. The slide is not moving. Just 1 minute, 1 minute. I will have to take technical support. Okay. If you can. What can I manage? Okay. So now you can see the meaning of it. So let us start with the meaning of a teacher in ancient India. We are all Indians. The ancient word in Sanskrit for a teacher is guru, as we all know. From the Sanskrit gu, Gu, meaning darkness, and ru, meaning dispeller of darkness. So guru means the dispeller of darkness. So guru is not just a teacher giving education, knowledge. Guru is more than a teacher. We dispel darkness of ignorance and open the eyes of the students. This is the historic ancient meaning of the word guru, that is a teacher. So that is the most ancient definition. In the ancient, Greece, also simultaneously, or before, after Indian history of education, the Latin word was pedagogy, which is the English word. The Latin word pedagogos denotes a slave, a servant, who used to accompany the child of the rich to the school. And on the way to the school, the child was so curious. He wanted to know so many things, so many questions to his minds. And the child kept on asking questions to the slave accompanying him to the school. So the slave tried to answer to whatever extent it is possible to satisfy the curiosity of the child. So that is the origin of the word pedagogues, and the process pedagogy. The Latin word, the original meaning of the pedagogy, the etymology says that it is derived from the word pedagogos, which means a slave accompanying a child to the school. And the child was obviously the child of the children from the rich families who can afford to send their children to the schools. And the slave used to satisfy the curiosity of the students on the way by asking questions. So that was the beginning in European history, ancient Greece, the beginning of teaching, learning in the life of a child. The English word teacher means one who instructs. That is a more modern kind of definition. Now, I will right. These are some of the quotes. Socrates said that I cannot teach anybody anything except I can teach them, I can make them think. That was Socrates. So I will only confine to this definition. The rest are already there. You can see, you can read, and these are the different definitions of teachers, and the definition also involves or connotes the role of a teacher. Now, when this is very, very important, what Socrates said. Socrates, and please remember the Socratic mode of teaching, learning, that is pedagogy, Socratic pedagogy, as we call, is still valid, and we are still trying to um, uh, you know, um, engage ourselves in a pedagogy which was enunciated by Socrates many, many years back, in 4000, 427 or 450, before Christ. He said that I cannot teach anybody anything except to make them how to think. So, the way Socrates was a great teacher, one of the first teachers in modern history, European history. See, and he used to say that an unexamined life, an unexamined human life, is not worth living. So that was what he used to believe. An unexamined human life is worth not living. So what does it mean? How can you examine one's life? How can you one examine one's life? So for that, what is required is deeper observation, introspection, and thinking. Of course, introspection involves thinking. So once you do not see the world through your own eyes and try to analyze and interpret what you see in terms of causation, in terms of the effect that you see, it is meaningless. Just mere giving information is meaningless. You have to see through your own eyes, experience it, then think, and that thinking is very important. So now we are talking about critical thinking. So Socrates said it thousands of years ago, and that was the fundamental philosophy of Socratic pedagogy, that one has to enable the students um, to think, how to think independently, and arrive at certain conclusions about what they see, what they experience. So this is about Socrates. And there are many other things. Teaching is more than imparting knowledge. It is inspiring change. Learning is more than absorbing facts. It is requiring understanding, William Ward said. And what the teacher is more important what he teaches, Karl Menninger said. So these are the different ways of explaining the roles of teachers. The roles of a teacher in the Vedic education system. In a Vedic school, a teacher was supposed to possess the highest standards of spiritual, highest moral and spiritual qualification, and to be well versed in the sacred lore and dwelling in the Brahmana or the Brahmanistha. So he was to illuminate the inner beings of his pupils within his own spiritual enlightenment. Otherwise, it would be like the blind leading the blind. This I quoted from the History of Education in India by Suresh Ghosh. See, you can get a one can get a get an echo of what Socrates said. Actually, this tradition of a teacher in a Vedic school dates far older, far back to the Socratic period. Much before Socrates said that thinking is very important in the process of learning, in experiencing life. Creating an independent worldview through the process of thinking. So here in the Vedic school also, the basic philosophy was that whoever takes or assumes the responsibility of a teacher must not only have enormous strength in terms of possession of knowledge, but the more than the knowledge, that a very high and very high moral and spiritual qualifications. And of course, then well versed in the sacred lore, that is the knowledge, dwelling in the Brahmana or the Brahmanistha. So, unless one has the character Oneless has the intellectual strength. No one can illuminate the inner beings of the peoples. This is what you can get a glimpse of in the Socratic thought much later, which came. Socrates say that I cannot teach anyone anything. I can make when one is stimulated independently, individually, then the process is the illumination of the inner beings of the person who begins to think, who begins to look at the world through his own eyes, her own eyes. And this is followed by the spiritual enlightenment. Otherwise, if you don't do that, if you don't have a very high moral standard, if you don't have very high level of your wisdom and knowledge, you cannot illuminate the minds, you cannot stimulate the mind of the students. Let us come back to the modern context. So what is required is that you have to, as a teacher, you have to challenge the students. You have to challenge the students for critical thinking about anything and everything that you are supposed to teach in the curriculum, in the syllabus, and anything and everything that is there in the book. You have to take them away, have them look at the world and challenge them to have opinion, have their own responses, have their own interpretations of what they see and what is being taught in the book, through the syllabus. So, that is the stimulation towards illuminating one's inner self. So this stimulation of the mind of the teacher is the biggest responsibility of a teacher, to my mind. As a teacher, we have to stimulate the minds of the student so that they're enabled to think critically about what you are going to discuss or what you are discussing with them on any particular topic, irrespective of the subject. Otherwise, if you are not enlightened, knowledge-wise, morally, then it would be like a blind leading another blind, or leading other minds. So this is of great significance. This philosophy of illumination of the inner beings, as it was described in the Vedic days of India. So India has a very ancient and very invaluable, I would say, heritage of education. So we have to, and these things, as I said in the beginning, these are universal and they are eternal. These will never go. Their relevance will be always there whenever each of the students to teach, irrespective of time and space, wherever. So these are eternal values, these are eternal philosophies, and they're universal. It is not that it is specific to some places, some culture, some society. It is not like that. So we, while discussing the roles and responsibilities of a teacher in today's time, we must also reflect upon what our in the ancient Vedic period used to have had in the philosophy, in the teaching learning process, and the roles of the teacher. So this is very pertinent to my mind, and that's why I have decided to quote from the History of Education written by Suresh Ghosh. Then let us go to the next. What is there? This is India. From India we went to the ancient Greece, and let us go to same thing. The guru reads the texts, deliberates, reflects on the topic. Students meditate to realize the truth. See, this student meditating to realize the truth means you are stimulating them and illuminating their minds so that they can internalize what is being taught, and they can connect it whatever is being taught by the teacher with the real world scenario, the real universe where they exist. And this connect is this connect is possible only through what we call as deeper thinking, critical thinking. So this has been there. Thinking has been a part of pedagogy since the Vedic period in India. We are emphasizing again and again now, not only in India, but throughout the world, as you will see later on. So our new national education policy also has a very core critical focus on what I call critical thinking. So this is see, the students first of all listen, and then dare to reflect on what is being taught. And then they think and think and think. And also in the thinking process, there was also certain instruments of setting a logic straight, and that was through discussion. And ultimately, the students themselves arrive at the truth that are being there in the textbooks as explained by the teachers. So this is a very important role of teacher to stimulate in order to analyze through critical self-analysis of what is being taught. This is very important. You cannot just go on reading and lecturing on a particular topic and complete the syllabus. That is not the role of a teacher, not at all. Then let us go to the Buddhist system much later, much later. The Mahaviras in the Nalanda, beginning in the they began the tutorial system with teacher-student ratio of 1:7. These are all standardized teacher-student way back in the tradition, is a Buddhist tradition of teaching learning. This was in Nalanda. The teacher-student ratio to have a close care of the students. Nalanda Mahavihara, as we call them, had 6 temples and 7 monasteries. These are like our schools, deans of schools, or the different schools of studies and the different departments. So this was 1500 years before the birth of the first universities in Europe. I will take you into the first university in Europe. This was happening in India, Nalanda, Takshila, 1500 years before the birth of the first universities in Europe, where they emphasized upon these traditions. They rediscovered what we have already practiced in India thousands of years ago. Teacher-student ratio, emphasis on learning, organization of the higher education system to school systems, departments, and through our own nomenclatures, of course. So these are all there, and we have to renew our and revisit our tradition, ancient heritage system, so that we can. Okay. Now let us go to the Chinese civilization, one of the also very ancient not is what I cannot see this. It is hidden. I cannot cut it also. I think let me try. No. No, I cannot minimize this. Hide this video. Okay. Learning and not thinking about the learned. This is what Confucius said. 551 to 479 before Christ. This was even much earlier than Socrates or contemporary of Socratic pedagogy. He is the mastermind of pedagogy, Confucius. He said learning and not thinking about the learned, what you have learned, is a pointless loss of time. It is pointless. So teacher and their disciples work together for self-improvement. So it is like this, in the process of teaching, it is not only through teaching. A teacher enlightens and illuminates the mind of the students, but in the process, illuminated. We also get illuminated and enlightened in the process of perfect teaching learning. That is a very important role of self-improvement of the teacher. We have to improve ourselves every day. In order to be a successful teacher, I realized through my own experience, my life of 5 years now, I have been teaching. What makes me tired, still motivated, go to the classroom and teach my students and engage myself in the teaching learning process. Still go to the laboratory to engage myself in some research with my students. What is the motivation? What keeps me going? So, this engagement, this motivation comes from my engagement in the teaching learning process with the students, and through which I'm improving every day. And at some point in life, as a teacher, I must tell you that I don't remember when I have become the student of my students, because the students raise such beautiful questions in the classroom in course of my discussion. They make me think. And if you try that, listen carefully to and give an opportunity to the students to engage in a dialogue with you rather than you just as a teacher going on a monologue, then you will realize some of the students ask such beautiful questions, and they will really make you sit up. And many a times I used the fantastic question you have raised, but for an answer you have to give me time. I will have to go. I will have to go to the book and some other sources, and I will study and I will get back to you. So that is the process which improved not only myself, but later on, the benefit of that improvement of myself had been transmitted to the students as well. So these are very critical elements of the roles and responsibilities of the teachers. Unless we also get enlightened as a teacher, unless we can also improve ourselves through the process of teaching, learning, then our role as a teacher will be incomplete. So, as a new teacher, as a fresh teacher, my humble suggestion to you will be always engage the students in your classroom through some challenges. Ask them the question. Ask them to critically think. Raise your fingers, raise your pointers to some of the important. They can really ponder. If you go to the good universities in the world today, for example, say Oxford University, any subject you pick up, and you just examine what do they do in the tutorials. They have a engagement of the small number of students in a class. Teachers. Generally in a class you have large number of students and one teacher teaches, but one in the students into smaller groups, irrespective of their level of learning in a particular topic. And they engage with a small group of students with different teachers of the department. And there they don't, one of the major things they do in the tutorials is to challenge the students with thinking process, to make them think and come up with certain observations, interpretations about whatever they are made to think, and through effective communication. So in the process, not only you enable, as a teacher's role is not only to stimulate the mind of the students to think critically, but also then to give you the response to their own language and through their own experience in their own language. So that will also enhance their communication skill. So these are all there in the whole process of making the students think and then express. Different, very important aspects of teaching learning, I must tell you. And these are all being practiced in some of the best universities in the world. You go to any university and you will see that in the tutorials, basic objective of the tutorials not to catch up with the rest of the brilliant students, so-called. Generally the perception is that tutorial students who cannot. So it is not that. Tutorials also enable them to get, but then at the same time, they also enhance their own through their own process of critical thinking. So students are individuals with unique aptitudes. Every student has fantastic ability, faculty. One subject, one topic, one concept, one area, maybe they're not interested. But certain other n number of multitude of faculties are interested, and interest is our inclination is an index of their in As a teacher, our role and responsibility is to discover and find out what inherent capacity potential a student has during the teaching classes. This is a very important role as a teacher, to identify, to invent and identify, not invent, to discover, and academic intellectual potential of a student. And please remember what Confucius is back, that every student has unique intellectual aptitude. So this is and that will take you into an individualized teaching learning approach with the students. Never dismiss a student as a bad student or a poor student. He may be bad in you, maybe not, but in others there are so many other things in which he or she may excel. And our duty and responsibility as a teacher is to identify what is that inherent talent he or she has, and guide them along the path. Okay, then let us go to the next slide. Okay, now the basic from the to the present time. In fact, while engaging ourselves so far in the ancient past, Vedic system, the Confucius system, Buddhist system, the role of a teacher education process, which are, as I told you, that these are universal and eternal. It is very relevant even today. All these points that we have discussed so far, very, very relevant and pertinent. And you can realize that, of course. Now, there vocabulary. Let's our responsibilities as a teacher. So we'll have to do certain mundane structures, classroom environments, evaluating fairly, treating the students respectively. These are, enumerated by recently 2015 by two educational experts, Baskets and Ben. These do not require any kind of explanation. You all know, you will learn. But then let me tell you another thing. Each and every one of these basic responsibilities require critical lifetime, 45 years. I have never got an opportunity, institutional or individual, to constructing a course, a syllabus. We develop our syllabus on our own perception of what it should be. And the whole education system had gone on like this. Teachers like us, who are absolutely to develop a syllabus taking into account the modern pedagogic principles. Pedagogy is a science now. It is embedded in the subject of education. But then it is very much many aspects of not only intellectual capacity of the students, but it involves the psychology of the teacher, psychology of the student, the nervous system of the students, how the neural networks work, how the brain retains, and how get the information or the knowledge or the skill, how they can really practice it, how they translate it into some kind of practical work skill. And also so that involves the neuromotor system and all that, are all very requirements of understanding for us whenever we embark upon designing our own courses and go to projects. So now the University Grants Commission has come a couple of years ago with the Learning Outcome-Based Curricular Framework. Learning Outcome-Based Curricular Framework. Way back in 1956, Benjamin Bloom had come up with. It's a 456 in the net. You can download recent edition has come up, I think, in 2004, 2005, the Benjamin Bloom's taxonomy. So unless we understand what is there in Bloom's taxonomy, what kind of words we should use in constructing the course, in defining the course objective, in defining the course outcome, objectives and course outcome. So all these are there in all the universities, higher education institutions to develop in their curriculum, which is called as the outcome-based curriculum. So every teacher, but please remember we have to have a thorough understanding of this. And this on these kind of platforms only, now we get to know all these things. Then comes evaluation fairly. Now evaluation process is also a very, very important aspect. Now we are going for continuous comprehensive evaluation, and that doesn't mean that you organize on every subject you teach every week. You have to. What is this?
Sorry, to change voice. We are seeing something.
Just a minute. 31. In our country, the semester system has become an absolute flop. Let me tell you, which is embedded on the very process of not only periodicity of the course being confined to 6 months period instead of the annual system, but on a process of continuous comprehensive evaluation. So that is again a part of pedagogy. Evaluation is a part of teaching learning process. How do you evaluate after the learning outcome? So we have never been taught in our life as a teacher. So in fact, teaching is the only profession in the country where one with the defined eligibility, criteria and the qualifications, master's degree with so much of percentages, with a net qualification and a PhD, will straight away enter into the teaching profession without even for a day undergoing any kind of orientation, any kind of professional training to be a teacher. Not unlike you would like to join the profession of, say, legal profession. In order to practice, you have to serve for a particular number of years as a junior under the umbrella of a senior advocate. A doctor, he has to be a junior serving as interns in hospitals for a definite period of time. A chartered accountant, every profession requires prior orientation through professional grooming of the qualified persons. Qualification and grooming are two different things. So here we are students on the other side, and next morning I am qualified. I'm in terms of fulfilling the appointment criteria as a teacher, assistant professor, and I shift my position from the other side to this side, and we start practicing. So as a teacher, please remember these basic responsibilities are at the core of the quality of determining the quality of the education that you are imparting in any higher education institution. How to evaluate properly. Continuous comprehensive evaluation. Never, nobody said that you should organize, every week or every month some examination and give them mark the way you conduct examination in the annual system. Right? Make them sit for 1 hour, 2 hours, make them answers a set number of questions, then evaluate them, and then you hold it continuously, very frequently, and you call it continuous evaluation. There are other ways of evaluating students very fairly, very objectively, very scientifically. And as a teacher, our responsibility is to learn from the experience and the body of knowledge of scientific evaluation of students in modern pedagogy by ourselves, or you have to evolve your own mechanism. And I'm sure as you progress teaching learning process in the university, you will also come up with your own unique, individual mechanism of evaluating your students, because these are all organic processes. These are all organic processes based on one-to-one understanding and relationship and engagement between the student and the teachers. So, and for that, you have to treat the students very respectfully. I mean, you have to respect them in terms of their sentiments, in terms of their aspirations, in terms of their eagerness to learn something. It is not that they would be constantly looking at you with respect, but it is not that. You have to also try to understand what are they looking for, what are their aspirations, what are their potentials. You have to respect those. So these are our basic responsibilities as a teacher. Then moving quickly, these are again, I will quicken my pace now. The professional skill, knowledge, understanding, these are all there. These are all required. You have to get student feedback from the time to time. Proper method of assessment, as I have told you, you have to evolve. Maintain and update your knowledge in the subject. You have to be very, very studious. Relate theoretical understanding of effective practice and teaching. Assess your practice with this. Please remember one thing. These days, students do not look upon the teachers as the Vedic period teachers also. Essays on the stage. Essays on the stage. Now they want us as guide by their side. It's a very oft quoted, almost a rhetoric now. They don't, the present generation of students, they are very knowledgeable. They have access to, access to different kinds of knowledge at the tip of their finger and through the internet. But all they want is, they need your guidance. All they need is your understanding to enable them to, realize their potential and give them some guidance as to which path they should take, which approach they should take in enhancing their knowledge and skill. So you are more of a guide. So we cannot expect that a role of a says on the stays like the previous days. Now, ethics, of course, is very important. You have to be fundamentally very, very ethical about whatever you do. There are certain common moral beliefs that you have to adhere to. Respect for autonomy of others, doing no harms, holding no vengeance to anybody. Benefit to the others should do their best for the student welfare, fairness and equity, fidelity and honesty, dignity, caring, appreciation, and respect for all others. These are fundamental ethical responsibilities a teacher is supposed to have. I think you all understand. You have to be fair, you have to be very honest, you have to be dignified, and you have to understand the dignity of the basic human dignity of all students. You have to be very caring, so on. Now, this is the most important part. I will transport you for the next few minutes to the emerging concepts of university social responsibility. But while telling them, see, this is a thing that we have, I have decided to pick up from the internet, that today's universities, you see certain things which were not there even 10 years back, like a startup incubator, right? See, below is one of the private university, the Shiv Nadar University, a very emerging good university in Delhi, private university. See, they are having Atal Innovation Center at Shiv Nadar University. So similarly, you go to any good university, you will find on the campus startup incubators, then innovation centers. These structures and these functionalities that we see the universities are very new things. You can see IPR sales, intellectual property sales. You can see community development sales. These are the new emerging concepts of the university. But before I take you into all these in detail, let me also tell you our teachers' roles and responsibilities are not just confined and limited to what we teach within the classroom and within the campus of the university or the colleges. So we have a larger role to play in the society. Because because of our knowledge, because of our experience, because of the nobility of our profession, that we illuminate and enlighten the minds of the young people. We prepare them through that illumination and enlightenment, the future generation, and through them the progress, the civilization and progress happens. So for that reason, what is very, very important? to realize that we are not only held in very high esteem by the students, but also by the society. So society looks up at us. So we have a societal intellectual role to play also as a teachers. We have a societal intellectual role to play, so that we can give the proper guidance and directive to the society also, at times of confusion, at times of need. So this is very, very important role that we have to play, and that is one of the reasons, why important intellectuals and academics are called. You see many a times in the talk shows, in the televisions, in the print media, everywhere, because they value your opinion. And they value your opinion, and while your ideas of the world at large, different phenomenon, are respected, and you are called upon in the process. What you do is your intellectual societal role. So you cannot be blind to the requirement of the society as a teacher. So we have to grow, and we have to live up to the expectation of the society. So this is a very important thing. Now the emerging concepts, these are the new things coming. So certain things are very important that is emerging. I will quickly take you on to. See, the whole thing started through these processes, the Bologna process, the Magna Charta Universitatem, Citatum, the Paris Declaration of Higher Education for 21st Century, it was just last year. So what are these things? They are looking at the whole scenario, the whole entire global landscape of the education, higher education sector, and they are formalizing quite a few things. And you see, the first university, a modern university, was established in Bologna, Italy, way back in 1088, the year 1088. And it was called Alma Mater Studiorum Università da Bologna, di Bologna. And it is called Studiorum because the first university in the world was established by a student guild. This is no occasion to describe the history of university, but then I think this is very interesting to important to know that some students got organized 1088 and organized an institutional mechanism for gaining knowledge, learning things by engaging students. And this is called the Alma Mater Studiorum University at the Bologna, which was established 1088, and it is still functioning as one of the finest universities in Europe today. And on the occasion of its, let us go to the next slide. I will tell you. Now, what is happening? I will come to Bologna process later on, the Magna Charta of Universitatem later on, and the Paris Declaration of 21st higher education. I will come at the end. But then before that, why these things are necessary? Why the Bologna process had to start in the oldest university in Europe? And what is the Bologna process? What is the Magna Charta Universitatem? And what is the Paris Declaration all about? That was last year. So see, what is happening today is in the your role as a teacher is to also help the students think beyond to think beyond the individual interest to societal interest. Generally, students come and join universities for their career progression. So that they can good education, good skills, and got a good placement, so that the livelihood aspect of the student is of critical core importance in the process of the teaching learning in the higher education system. But now we have to think beyond these individual interest, and we have to think about the societal interest. We have to think about the global interest. The world is in jeopardy. The world is undergoing critical changes, very fast, rapid changes. These changes are of far-reaching consequences and implicate every citizen, every individual of the world. So you cannot be confined, cocooned yourself as a student, as a teacher, only to your own personal narrow interest of getting a job at the end of the education process. You have to also open their eyes to the issues confronting us, like environmental issues, climate change, then the societal issues like how to generate livelihood by with our own help. That is how the in the process of the startup innovations and all those things have come in the wake of all these things. We have to enable students as teachers to go beyond, think beyond the individual interest to social interest. So this is a very important realization that you have to take in remember in mind. So universal social responsibility is is an emerging concept. We have heard about corporate social responsibility. I will not take you into the details of the corporate social responsibility. It is beyond the scope of my lecture today. But then it is derived, the concept of universal social responsibility, also not too different and far away from the basic concept of corporate social responsibility, which is very much there in every country, including India. The Companies Act provide provisions for corporate social responsibility. It has been legalized. Now, Rager in 2008 defines universal social responsibility like this. Please go through very carefully. This is a policy, universal social responsibility of, this is not universal, I'm sorry, it is university social responsibility. Please read this as university social responsibility, not universal. University social responsibility. That is a policy of ethical quality of the performance of the university community. So ethical university social responsibility is based on a policy of ethical quality, moral quality of the performance of the university community, includes our students, faculties, and administrative employees. So we are focusing on a faculty now. Via the responsible management of educational, cognitive, labor, and environmental impacts produced by the university in an interactive dialogue with society to promote a sustainable human development. So this is very crisply defined what is university social responsibility. So if you have the responsibility, it comes within the realm of our roles as a teacher also, because we belong to this institution called university. So now we have university social responsibility in line with corporate social responsibility. And many people say that looking at the changes happening in the world, the globalization, then migration, the cultural diversification in the university, taking into all these account, industry academia interactions, taking into all these account, many people say that this is a part of corporatization of the university system. The universities 20 years before were totally different from the philosophy and functioning of the university of today, because and therefore this kind of philosophies are also gaining ground, that it is not, universities are not places only to prepare the students individually for their career progression, but also for what is it called for the societal improvement. The reason for this is, just like corporate sectors, we also have stakeholders in the society. We also draw resources from the university, from the environment and the society. We draw resources from the environment. So we have a responsibility. So the society has a stake in those investments to their human resource development. So they want something back from us. So, and therefore, increasingly, the society is questioning what benefit are we getting from you? Increasingly, they're asking, you are producing PhDs, you are producing immense volume of knowledge through your PhD, doctoral thesis and all that. But of what value and relevance and application these knowledge is to the society? How do they help us? They're increasingly questioning us. So therefore, because we draw resources from the society, right, and also we do things from the university through our through the knowledge and skill that we impart to the students. They go and do things which impact the society, the climate, the way they function. They set up an industry, they foul up the climate, the atmosphere, pollution. So all these things, as mentioned here, that in an interactive dialogue with society, to promote a sustainable human development, you have to ensure this. We cannot produce something in the university which can go for damaging, go on damaging the society and culturally, environmentally, and otherwise. So this is the fundamental of university social responsibility, and we have to be very, very aware of this. Now, some of the challenges, irrespective of historical, social, and cultural, dissimilarities. In spite of dissimilarities in history, society, and culture in many different countries, there are certain common challenges in the system. I'm concluding very fast now. So there is a gradual retreat on the part of the governments, the state, as the main supporters of the university system. There is less money and more demand. Right? People want more equity and access to higher education by the poor. So for that, you have to lower the fees. You have to enable textbooks at very cheaper prices. At the same time, the government is not giving you with coming up with enough money. It is global. This is very important, increase in entrepreneurial character of research in higher education systems. So whatever research we engage in has to have an industrial application, has to have some kind of a entrepreneurial value so that a startup can be formed. So there is a difference between research and innovation. So we are doing, earlier the drive was very purely academic and intellectual, whatever we do while doing a research, doing some inventions and all those things, fundamental academic intellectual. But now it is more driven by the market force. What is required by the industry? What is required by the society? So growing, then again, there is a growing flexibility of personal structures in your university. So different kind of officials, different kind of domains have been created. So how to cope with all these kind of things. Then diversification of financial resources. It is not only the government, there are many funding agencies who can give you money, but you have to compete with them. Then adaptation of curricula to labor market requirements. This is what I said just now. So our curricula is not. So in the process, and also the society is asking for newer methods of assessment of the education, the ranking and all that, National Institutional Ranking Framework, the NAC, the those Times Higher Education and Shanghai ranking and all that. You all know that. So these are based on certain organizations, indicate as a criteria for assessing university. So university in the process, while facing these challenges, we have to, as a university, we have to be rooted and moored in the basic attributes of a university, our autonomy and our independence. So we are not, our autonomy and our independence have to be protected. Otherwise, we lose the basic character as a university. So as a teacher, we have to remember these rules as well. So very shortly, I am telling some of the trends in the university sectors. These are challenges. Massification. Large number of students are to be admitted. Then along with that, digitization, distance education has come. So there is an institutional drift. Earlier, universities, generally used to focus on academic subjects. Now, subjects like business administration, engineering, nursing, everything has come. So there's a drift, there is an expansion. So how to cope with this? So higher education is also becoming a business activity. So therefore, it is very, very important. So return of investment is required by the government, by the society. Earlier, the return of investment was in terms of intellectual and civilizational returns, but now it is in terms of placement, in terms of contribution to society, in terms of how many innovations a university has made, how many patents you have earned. So all these things are now dictated or determined by market forces. So these are the new challenges. These are the new issues. As a teacher, we have to really shift our roles and responsibilities to cope up with these challenges and the changes. Now, very briefly, this is my last slide. Magna Charta Universitam. This was, this was a kind of an agreement with 889 universities from 88 countries, led by the University of Bologna in 1988 to mark the 900th anniversary of the Bologna University. and they wanted to define the key philosophical concepts of university, the academic freedom and institutional autonomy, just now I have mentioned. Then the Paris UNESCO sponsored, UNESCO under the aegis of the UNESCO, in 2021, there was a conference. I'm just concluding. 2021 about higher education, the challenges of the 21st century, the roles of the teachers, the question of equity, the question of innovation, the question of increasing private partner fundings, and all these things have come up. So our changes as teachers and responsibilities are changing very fast. I started with Vedic period. I'm ending with Bologna today, with Bologna charters, Bologna process. Please go through all these, because we are in this domain and we have to be familiar with all these trends, because our roles and responsibilities accordingly to be fine-tuned. Thank you, with apologies because I have overshot by 10 minutes, I think. 8 minutes.
No, sir, it's perfectly okay. Just someone has unmuted his microphone, therefore.
Okay. So it is open for, if you have the time, I'm ready to take 1 or 2 questions.
Okay, sir. There are some questions in the chat box. The first question is from Gyanasri Kotoki. As usual, it's very much motivating to listen to Professor Buragohain, sir. A query: how to balance class load and social responsibility as being practiced by today's educational institutions.
See, these are the challenges I mentioned, and also our shifting our roles. See, students, we are teaching, just in sort of introspect a little bit. We generally are teaching students the same old way as we have been taught 50 years back in the classroom. But meanwhile, many things have changed. We are still defined by the syllabus, defined by the textbook, and defined by the number of periods, which is defined again in terms of the credits. The course structure is defined in terms of credits: 2 credit courses, 3 credit courses, so 1 hour, 2 hour. We have dosified knowledge. So therefore, how to engage students in social activities. So these are all institutional mechanisms. As a teacher, you can fall back only on the institutional provisions that you have for enabling the students involved in social commitments. So a lot of, there are activities, beyond the classrooms. Also, through, conventionally, there are NSS camps, NCCs, National Cadet Corps. Now that Ek Bharat, Shresth Bharat, all these things are, keep coming. So these are all to highlight upon the different societal, civilizational aspects, social aspects. So we have to now shift our roles. No one has a definite prescription for the do's and don'ts for this, but you have to really strike a fine balance between the basic objective of the university teacher to enlighten them, to make them knowledgeable, skillful, while they can earn a livelihood, but at the same time they have a quality life. But at the same time, now the new demand is that they have to also think beyond their individual self. They have to go to the society. You have to open their eyes to those societal problems, and you can stimulate them towards that end also. Like empathy, sympathy, all those things: poverty, pollution, exploitation, gender disparity. These are the issues. Our students have to be engaged in this kind of issues, and they can come up with their own thoughtful, creative, innovative ideas as solutions. These are also a part of the teaching learning process. Never ever we should not imprison ourselves in the thought of how to complete the syllabus only. There are different ways of completing the syllabus. There are different ways of engaging students in the in the learning process. Self-learning is more important. Give them assignments as much as possible, and honestly, and in a believable kind of mechanism. You have to monitor them. Also, you cannot let them free, because they can be, they can be random at their age. So you have to make them responsible. accountable the way we are being made responsible, and at the same time accountable to society, to the government today. I think this is in partial response to whatever I can.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next question.
Next question is from Sakshi Bhatia. I wanted to hear your opinion on the consequences of state withdrawal from education funding. Isn't there a high chance of the most disadvantaged populations losing out on a chance of getting access to affordable education? What can teachers do to prevent these potential consequences?
See, teachers play roles at different levels in the university functioning. So if you are thinking in terms of classroom engagement, this is not. But if you are thinking about yourself as a teacher's role in the as a member of the academic council, as a member of the governing bodies, as a member of the Senate and the court, executive council at a higher level, I think you can go for the right policies, so that you can have you can decide on the you can decide on the very rational fee structure for the students, so that it becomes accessible. Certain provisions have to be made for poor students. Some fund has to be created depending on their economic background, depending on their academic potentials. So these kind of things we as a teachers can do at various levels of institutional institutional mechanisms, like as I said, executive council, academic council. You can always have debates, and therefore, and these debates is based on individual and institutional autonomy and academic freedom. No one will dictate you. Your views have to be churned out, discussion, debated, and distilled, and then it should be forwarded for implementation. So that is how I can see the role. We have to be very, very conscious about these needs, equity and access. Gross enrollment ratio is just about 23% today. That means large majority of the students are yet to get access to the higher education institutions. The NEP says that no, by 2030, 2040, it has to be 50%. So for that, institutional infrastructural things have to be increased. Government support has to come. If the government cannot come, the government says that private also can come. The private-public model is another model. So as a teacher, we have to discuss and debate the pros and cons of these models. What will happen if privatization happens? What are the pros? What are the cons? If private PPP model, public-private engagement model is good, then how good it is, and what are the disadvantages? As a teachers, we cannot be, you cannot be immune and blind to these emerging models and ideas. Influencing us is the university systems and involving larger societal issues. Like gross enrollment ratio is a societal issue involving access. So your thoughts are really pertinent, but then we have to debate, we have to discuss, see the different models without straight away dismissing any one of these models. And some people say the privatization is bad, but how bad? But it is also good, and that is how it is surviving. Some of the best universities in the world, in the United States, they're all private universities. Right. So we have to take leaf from all these experiences and blend it together in the Indian context and take it forward. Yes. Next.
Sir, Munmi Bora wants you to explain the Bologna process once again.
Bologna process, it started with a realization of the European governments that they need to harmonize the higher education system. So different universities cannot have different kind of things. In fact, what we are doing now in the new National Education Policy 2020, many of the underpinning philosophies were defined and crystallized in the Bologna process in 1998, when the whole process had started with a series of discussion between many countries, 88 countries, the education ministers, the university rectors and the vice chancellors. They made through different conferences, and they have come up with certain things that in the 21st century, these are the issues, including the pandemic is an issue in the Paris Convention of Higher Education in the last year, which happened. So how to address the issues of equity, the Bologna process. So how do you enhance the access of higher education to the maximum number of students. How students' learning process can be made more effective and enhanced and made easy. Like academic bank of credit, we are now thinking about in India. So they thought about in the Bologna process in 1998 that among these signatory Bologna process signatories, these universities, the credits can be transferred. Students can migrate from one university to another university. All these universities have the basic degree, academic structures, academic programs similar. Right. Their equivalence of degrees have been already been defined. Equivalence of degrees. There are 889 universities then. Now the number has increased now. So Bologna process is essentially to harmonize the higher education process, guaranteeing equity, access, enhancing innovation, research, and also human rights, which is fundamental to human dignity. So these are all encapsulated in the Bologna process, and its fountainhead was the Magna Carta of these universities. That is an agreement they decided on the occasion of the 900th anniversary of the Bologna University. So it is still working. They are still working through the UNESCO now, which held its conference in Paris in 2021 last year, and they defined that, and they agreed that in order to there are so many things you will get in it really calls for a separate discussion, Bologna process. But in short, it is this. They have harmonized. It's a process of harmonizing the higher education system across the European universities and beyond, of course, so that we have the similar kind of systems, so that students can easily migrate one semester in this university, another semester I'm migrating to another country. I can avail the education from where I left in the other country, in the other university. My credits earned will be transferred, all kinds of things, right? And also increasing private-public participation is also thought about, because without it is beyond philanthropy. Harvard University was formed in 1638 as Harvard College out of sheer philanthropic sense. You give the money and you forget, for a good cause, charity. But it is not now private. Now privatization involves that you invest money, and while investing money, you also have expectation for returns. So what could be the returns to society? What could be the returns to the private funders, funding agencies? All these are to be discussed and debated, and working effective model for the larger interest have to be worked out. These are at the core of this Bologna process. Very, very shortly. You have to read a lot. But what is at the basic? What is at the basis of universities functioning in spite of all these processes and demands and changes is the academic freedom and institutional autonomy of the university. Under no cost, you have to you can dilute this. Otherwise, you will be lost. Next question, if any.
I hope there is no more questions. One more question from Mukul Nath. In the age of LPG, is the higher education affordable to all?
In the age of
LPG.
What is LPG?
Can you please unmute Mukul Nath if you are available now?
Liberalization, privatization, and globalization.
Yes.
LPG. You see, liberalization, privatization, and globalization. See, as I mentioned, we are increasingly be driven by the market force. The curriculum is designed not purely on the merit of academics and intellectual development, but it also research is carried out. Research funding is happening only also in the context of what is called the market demands, the market force. So globalization, liberalization is these are all interlinked things, but you cannot deny. So liberal education is also a response to liberal education is also a response to this increasing challenges coming from globalization. See, what is happening in globalization is the world has become very small. The world is living in a situation where it is changing very fast. The world is where we are living and we will make our students to live is not only marked by rapid changes, but also rapid complexities. Life is not as simple, and also diversities. Different people from different part of the world, they're migrating very fast, very easily. Now that increases cultural diversity, that increases so many kinds of diversities in the world. How to enable our students to cope with these fast changes, technology advancements. The technology that was valid yesterday is invalid today. How to learn new technology, and how to unlearn obsolete technology, and how to relearn new technologies. Not only technologies, every bit of knowledge. These are the challenges that is at the core of liberal education, liberal art education, which is also there embedded philosophically in the new national education policy. So liberalization and globalization is a part, and marketization is definitely, privatization is definitely is coming as a result of that. And when government again, this privatization hangs in the basic concept of our understanding of public good and private good. So earlier, education, higher education was in the realm of public good. It was government's responsibility to extend the benefit of education to one and all in a free country, one and all. But are we being able to do that? We are not, for whatever reason. So therefore, so it is not available. Free. Not. It is not. It is no. It is a good that it is in the post-liberalization. It is argued that universities are no more to be considered in the realm of public good, because if it is to be in the public good, everyone must have access. Everyone must be able to afford it, and everyone must also opt for it. It is like free air in the atmosphere. No public has any exclusive right over our environment or in the atmosphere. Air is accessible to us. Air we have to afford, and air we need. Right. So therefore, it is in the public good. It cannot be in the private good. But if anything, including higher education, is not freely available, not affordable, not liked also, then it will go from the public good realm to the private good. And if it is in the private good, if somebody wants that, I want to invest money and to extend the benefit of education to somebody who wants to have it for a price, or wants to have it for inclination, and wants to have by somebody who can afford it, then why not? So privatization is also is a fact of life coming along the globalization, and we have to cope with it. So these are all linked. Very good question. LPG, liberalization is liberal art education is also a consequence of all these phenomenon that you have just mentioned: liberalization, privatization, and globalization. Undeniable developments. You cannot give universities cannot be insulated from these developments. So we have to come up with creative, innovative solutions to respond to it. Liberal art education is one. But then there are many things involved in liberal art education. More than all these things, it is also to basically to strengthen the very foundation of democratic values in the minds of the young students, so that you can liberate the mind of the students from dogmas, from superstitions, from suppressions, and all those kinds of things. So I cannot take you into all those things. These call for different lectures. Yes.
Thank you, sir. Within this 1 hour, you have summarized all the important and motivational things which are required for the newly joined teachers. Someone has perfectly written that thank you for your Guru Mantra for empowering faculties to do better in higher education. We also extend our thanks and gratitude to you, sir.
It's a pleasure. It is always a pleasure to be with to be in dialogue with the younger faculties. It's very engaging and very interesting for me. I enjoy. Thank you very much for the good questions also.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. So we can leave now, huh?
Yes, sir. We are winding up the session.
Yeah, please.